What if one of the world's most powerful modern nations was still thinking like an ancient empire? What if today's global strategies, trade deals, diplomacy, influence were not entirely new, but echoes of a system designed over 1,000 years ago? Because when we look at China's foreign policy today, it may seem modern, strategic, even pragmatic. But beneath the surface, something older is still at work, something deeply rooted in history. How can a country that has gone through revolutions, ideological shifts, and rapid modernization still follow patterns shaped in ancient times? And are China's global moves today actually part of a much older strategy? To understand this, we must go back to the foundations of imperial China. For centuries, China's foreign relations were shaped by a worldview that placed it at the center of civilization, surrounded by regions that were expected to recognize its cultural and political superiority. This system, often described as the tribute system, was not simply about diplomacy, it was about hierarchy, where foreign states engaged with China through ritualized exchanges that reinforced a sense of order and status. Rather than treating other states as equals, imperial China viewed international relations as a structured system, where influence was maintained through recognition, not just force. This idea of hierarchy would leave a lasting imprint on how China approaches the world. In ancient times, China understood that power did not always require direct control, and that influence could be extended through trade, culture, and economic relationships. Foreign states that participated in the system often received access to valuable goods, markets, and prestige, creating incentives to align with China's expectations. This approach allowed China to expand its influence without constant warfare, using economic attraction and diplomatic structure to shape its surroundings. It was not domination in the traditional sense. It was influence by design. Even as China transitioned through different dynasties and political systems, certain patterns remained consistent, including a preference for stability, long-term strategy, and controlled engagement with the outside world. Modern transformations, including the rise of the People's Republic of China, did not completely erase these historical tendencies, but rather adapted them to new global conditions. While the language of ideology changed, the underlying emphasis on sovereignty, control, and strategic positioning continued to shape decision-making. History was not abandoned. It was reinterpreted. Today, China's foreign policy often emphasizes non-interference, economic partnerships, and long-term influence, reflecting a preference for stability and gradual expansion of relationships rather than sudden confrontation. Large-scale initiatives, such as global infrastructure investments and trade networks, can be seen as modern extensions of earlier systems that prioritize connectivity and economic ties as tools of influence. Rather than projecting power solely through military means, China frequently uses economic relationships to build strategic advantages. It is a different form of power, but one with familiar roots. One of the most distinctive features of China's approach is its long-term perspective, often focusing on gradual change rather than immediate results. This reflects a historical tradition of strategic patience, where influence is built over time through consistent policy, economic engagement, and diplomatic positioning. Unlike systems driven by short political cycles, this approach allows for continuity and planning across decades, shaping outcomes in subtle but powerful ways. It is not always visible, but it is always in motion. Ancient China often avoided unnecessary conflict, preferring to maintain stability through relationships and structured systems rather than constant warfare. This principle can still be seen today, where economic leverage, diplomatic negotiation, and strategic positioning are often prioritized over direct military confrontation. While China continues to build military capabilities, its broader strategy frequently emphasizes influence without escalation, balancing strength with restraint. Power is not only about force, it is also about control over outcomes. China's approach to international relations often reflects a vision of the world that differs from Western models, emphasizing sovereignty, non-interference, and mutual benefit over ideological alignment. This perspective can be traced back to historical systems that prioritize order and stability within a structured framework of relationships. As China's global role expands, this vision increasingly shapes international discussions about governance, trade, and power. It is not just participating in the global system. It is influencing how that system evolves. China's foreign policy is not simply a product of modern geopolitics. It is the result of centuries of historical experience, cultural perspective, and strategic adaptation. What we see today is not a repetition of the past, but a continuation of its logic. So when China makes its next move on the global stage, is it reacting to the present or following a strategy written long ago?